find the greatest common factor between these numbers here. So, let's see. For 16 and 40. So I'm going to do this slightly differently than I did in class because I think this way might be a little bit easier for you guys to understand. So 16, so let's find out all the numbers that multiply together to be 16. So I'm going to do 16 divided by 1 is going to be 16. 16 divided by 2 is going to be 8. If I try and do 3, I know that's not going to work, right? Because if I do 16 divided by 3, I'm going to get a decimal. So if you put that in the calculator and you get a decimal, you know it's not a factor. And then I'm going to do 4. And so 16 divided by 4 is going to be 4. So that means that I'm done because my two numbers have kind of met in the middle here. So those are all my factors for 16. Now I'm going to do the same thing for 40. So 40 divided by 1 is 40. 40 divided by 2 is 20. 40 divided by 3 is not going to work. 40 divided by 4 is going to give me 10. 40 divided by 5 is going to be 8. 6 and 7 are not going to work. So those are all of my factors. Now, when it says greatest common factor, that just means that all I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the biggest number that they both have as a factor, right? Now, right off the bat, 16 is the biggest number on the left. That means any number bigger than 16 automatically gets eliminated. So do they both have a 40? No. Do they both have a 20? No. Do they both have a 16? No. Do they both have a 10? No. Do they both have an 8? Yes. They both have an 8. They have an 8 here, I have an 8 here. That means that my greatest common factor is 8. All right, I'm going to stop for a second. I'm going to let you guys do the second one. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So I'm going to do 18, and I'm going to do 60. So 18, 1, so 18 divided by 1 is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 18 divided by 3 is 6. 4 does not work. 5 does not work. And, well, I already did 6. So those are all my factors for 18. For 60, 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15. 60 divided by 5 would give you 12. 60 divided by 6 is going to give you 10. 7, 8, and 9 are all not going to work. Now, in the future, I'm not going to write all these out, but I'm just kind of showing you that if you were to try and do 60 divided by 7, 60 divided by 8, you're going to get a decimal, and so those numbers are not going to be factors. Okay, so those are all of my factors. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check. See, so 18 is the biggest number on the left, so that means anything bigger than 18 is obviously out. 18 is that common factor? No. 15, no. 12, no. 10, no. 9, no. But 6 is going to work. Okay, so 6 is my greatest common factor. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So now we're doing the same thing we just did, except now we're going to have to actually use the greatest common factor to divide both terms and factor these. So I have 9 and I have 36. So 1 and 9. 2 does not work. 3 is going to be times 3. So that's all my factors. 36, so it's 1 and 36. 2 and 18. 3 and 12. 4 and 9. 5, no. 6. Oops. 6 and 6. Okay, so those are all of my factors. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through step by step and eliminate everything that I need to eliminate. So 36 doesn't work, 18 doesn't work, 12 doesn't work, 9 does. Okay, so that's the number I'm going to divide both of the terms in the polynomial by. So I'm going to divide both of these by 9, and I'm also going to pull a 9 outside and make parentheses. So I'm going to say 9, and then 9x divided by 9 is just x, right? So that's x. 36 divided by 9 is 4, and that is my answer. Okay. I'm going to let you guys do the second one. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Let's let's see. So 63 and 45. You guys will see some of my notifications. That's okay. No big deal. All right. You see what you see when you guys send me emails. You see what happens, right? People just keep sending me emails. All right. So 1 and 63. 2 does not work. Don't need that. 3 and 21. 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 works. 7 and 9. Okay. And for 45, that's 1 and 45. 2 doesn't work. 3 and 15. 4, 5, and 9. 6, 7, 8 don't work. Okay, so those are all my factors. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to start from the top and figure out what is the biggest one that they have in common, because that's going to be my greatest common factor, and it's going to be the number that I'm going to divide by. So 63, no. Oops, 45, no. 21, no. 15, no. 9, and 9. Okay. So 9 is the number that I'm going to divide on both sides here. So that means that a 9 comes outside the parentheses. 63 divided by 9 is 7. And 45 divided by 9 is 5. And now, once you've done all the greatest common factor part, like once you've done all of this, the second part is actually kind of easy, because you don't even really need to think about what the division is, because 63 divided by 9 is 7. That number is right here, right? And if I do 45 divided by 9 is 5, that number is right here. So you don't even, you can kind of automate that process a little bit. So 7 plus 5b, and that's my answer. Okay? All right, next one. So this step is basically the same thing as what we just did. The only difference is the variables are a little bit bigger, and so we're going to have to consider that a little bit when we're doing this. So the greatest common factor between 63 and 35. Okay, 1 and 63. 2 does not work. If I get a decimal. 3, 21, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. Okay, that's good. 1 and 35, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, so 5 works actually. 5 and 7. Okay. Okay. So let's see, what can I eliminate here? So obviously 63 doesn't work, 35 doesn't work, 21 doesn't work, 9 doesn't work, 7 does. So 7 is what I'm going to divide on both sides. But now I also need to divide by something for the variables to cancel those out. So all I'm going to do is look at which variable has a smaller exponent. And when I see that, right, so if I'm looking at the 12 and the 6, which number is smaller? It's the 6, right? So that means I'm dividing by x to the 6th and x to the 6th. So when I go to write my final answer, so 7x to the 6th is going to be on the outside. 63 divided by 7 is 9. X to the 12th divided by x to the 6th. Remember, we just subtract the exponents, so that means that that's x to the 6th power. We're going to leave the minus sign in. 35 divided by 7 is 5. And then x divided by 6 divided by x, or x to the 6th divided by x to the 6th is just 1, so that gets completely canceled out. So this is my final answer. Okay? All right. You guys are going to do the second one. Okay, so let us see what we got here. So 16 and 4, this one should be a little bit easier. Let's see, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4, 1 and 4, 2 and 2. Okay, so here are all of my factors, and I can already tell the biggest one is going to be 4. Okay, right there. All right, so that means I'm going to divide both of these by 4, and I'm also going to divide by the variable by the power with the that's lower between the two. So that means I'm going to divide by p to the 3rd power on both sides. P to the 3rd, p to the 3rd. Okay, so 4 p to the 3rd is going to come out. 16 divided by 4 is 4. let's see what else we got. P to the fourth divided by p to the third is just p, right? Because p to the fourth power, so there's 4 minus 3 is 1, right? And then the numerator and the denominator right here are the same, so that means that those cancel out. So that's just 1. So that's my answer right there. Okay? All right. Onward. Okay, so same thing again, except now we have 3 terms instead of 2 terms, right? So let's see. So I have 14 and 21. So actually I really only need to do 2 of these because there's 2 of the same number. So let's see. So 14 and 21. So the greatest common factor between 14 and 21. So I have 1 and 14, 2 and 7. If I try 3, 4, 5, 6, none of those are going to work. If I do 21, 1 and 21, 2 does not work. 3 and 7, 4, 5, 6 don't work. And I can already tell that the greatest common factor here is going to be 7. Okay? So that means I'm going to divide both of these terms, or actually all 3 of the terms, by 7. But I'm also going to divide by whatever variable has the lowest exponent, which is a, because that's really a to the first power, right? So I'm going to divide by a here, a here, a here. So 7a is going to come out. So just so we're all clear, right? This number right here, or this term, is the same as the one that's going to be right there, okay? So now let's see. So I have 14 divided by 7 is 2. A to the first divided by a to the first cancels out, so I don't need any variables there. 21 divided by 7 is 3. A squared over a, so it's 2 minus 1 is 1, so it's just a. And then 21 divided by 7 is 3 again. But now a to the third power divided by a to the first power gives you a to the second power. Okay? So that right there is my answer. Now you guys are going to do the second one. Okay, so let's see what we got. So I have 8, 24, and 12. So, all right, let's see what we got. So 8, 24, and 12. So 1, 2, 3. So 1 and 8, 2 and 4, 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Okay, so the greatest common factor amongst all 3, so 24 does not work, so actually let's start canceling some. It's a lot here. So 24 doesn't work. There's a 12 for 24 and 12, but not for 8, so I can't use that. There's an 8 for 8 and 24, but there's none for 12, so I can't use that. There's a 6 for the last 2, but not for all 3. So 4 works for all 3. So that's the one that I'm going to use. Okay? So I'm going to divide all of these by 4. And then I'm also going to divide by the term with the lowest exponent, so that's x to the 5th. Okay, so 4x to the 5th is in front of the parentheses. Negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. 24 divided by 4 is, oh, actually, whoop, hold on, what did we forget? I forgot x to the 7th divided by x to the 5th is x squared. X to the 6th over x to the 5th is x, and 24 divided by 6 is, or 4 is 6, so 6x, right? Because this is x to the 6th minus, or 6 minus 5, right? X to the 6th divided by x to the 5th. Then 12 divided by 4 is 3, and the variables cancel out there. So there's my answer. Okay, there is my answer. All right. Let's keep going. Okay, so x squared plus 4x minus 32. So now we're going to start using the x method like we did in class. So remember a, b, c. So it's 1 because there's no term right here, right? 4 and negative 32. We got to remember that we got to use this negative right here. So a times c goes in the numerator, or well, the top of the x, I guess, it's not really numerator, and then b. So negative 32, because 1 times negative 32 is negative 32, and then b is 4. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together to be negative 32, but also add up to 4. So if I don't know what those are, then I should make a table, right? So negative 32 right there, so 1, negative 32. Remember, I'm looking for two numbers that add up to positive 4. So if I add those together, I'm going to get negative 31. That doesn't work. Let's do 2 and negative 16. That's going to be negative 14. That doesn't work. 3 and negative, well, 3 doesn't work, so we can't use 3. 4 and negative 8 gives you negative 4. So we're very close, but we got to flip the signs. So instead of 4 and negative 8, we're going to do 8 and negative 4. Those are going to be my two numbers. And then we're just going to put them into the two binomials. So I'm going to have x plus 8 and x minus 4. And that is going to be my final factored form. Okay? You guys do the second one. Okay, so let's do, let's mix it up a little bit. All right, so x squared minus 2x minus 15. So I'm going to write out a, well, actually, that doesn't look very good. What about this? Okay, that works. All right, a is 1, b is negative 2, c is negative 15. So remember, a times c goes in the top, so negative 15, negative 2. Okay, so I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together to be negative 15, but add up to negative 2. So negative 15. So let's start with 1 and negative 15. So 1 minus 15 is negative 14. That does not match negative 2. Let's keep going. 3 and negative 5. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So those two numbers are matching, right? This number matches this number. That means those are my two numbers. So I have 3 and negative 5. So my factored form is x plus 3 and x minus 5. Okay? All right, last one. I know, very sad, very sad. All right, so these problems are kind of a combination of everything we've done so far. So the first thing we're going to have to do is factor out GCF. Then we're going to do the X method, okay? So let's start off by finding the GCF. So I have 2, 12, and negative 80. Now, I'm going to spare you guys a little bit. The only two factors for 2 is 1 and 2, right? So I know these are all even numbers, so 2 is going to be the number that I divide by for everything, okay? Now the other thing is, you see how 80 does not have a variable. That means I can't do anything with the variables when I'm factoring out at this point, okay? So all I'm going to do is divide all these terms by 2. So 2 is going to come outside. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so it's just x squared. 12 divided by 2 is 6, so it's 6x. And then 80 divided by 2 is going to be 40. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor, using the x method, whatever's inside here. So let's see what we got. I'm not going to write out ABC again every time. I'm going to start assuming that you know what I'm talking about here. So on top, I'm going to put negative 40, because A times C is negative 40. And I'm going to put 6 on the bottom, because that's B. So now I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together to be negative 40, but add up to 6. So let's see, negative 40 divided by 1 is going to give you negative 40. That's going to be negative 39 if I subtract. That's not going to help. 2 and 20. So 2 minus 20 is negative 18. Again, not going to help. 3 is not a factor. 4 and 10 is going to give me negative 6. So I'm almost there. I just got to flip the sign. So it's 10 and negative 4. Okay. So my final answer, remember I have to keep the 2 that I started with. And all I'm going to do is x plus 10 and x minus 4. And that is my answer. So why don't you guys try the second one? So just like we did with the last one, I could try and do all the factors, but 3 is a prime number, right? So I'm really just going to divide all these by 3. 3, there we go, 3 and 3. So I'm going to be left with 3 times the quantity n squared plus, so 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 30 divided by 3 is 10, okay? So we're going to factor this. So negative 10 goes on top, 3 goes on the bottom. So I'm looking for numbers that multiply to be negative 10. So 1 minus 10 is going to give you negative 9. Doesn't work. 2 minus 5 is negative 3, so almost. So instead of 2 and negative 5, I'm going to do 5 and negative 2. So my final answer is 3 times the quantity n plus 5 and n minus 2. All right. Well done. See you tomorrow.